What's up, everybody? Episode 18 of BlueTruth with myself, Brian Attard, and we have many things to be happy about, obviously. Nothing that you need me to tell you. You already know that we're still alive, and it didn't look very good there for a while, but your New York Rangers have advanced to the second round. I will not wipe that smile off my face, Mike. I have been smiling from ear to ear for about 23 hours since last night. What an absolutely unbelievable Game 7 at the Garden. Rangers advance to the second round with a dramatic Game 7 win at Madison Square Garden. A 3-1 series comeback against the Penguins, repeating what the Rangers did to them in 2014. And having been there, it was just surreal. I have never heard that building erupt the way that it did when that went in overtime. And, you know, I think back to my thoughts after Game 3 and after Game 4 and midway through Game 5. And, I thought about the postmortem show, and, I thought about what I would say basically as a eulogy for this team for this year, and how, all the things that we were critical about during the regular season showed their ugly head again. The reliance on the power play for scoring, the lack of scoring at 5-on-5, the inability to play any sort of defense in front of their Vezina Trophy nominee, presumptive winning goaltender, the talk that this team was all Igor, and that when Igor wasn't Igor, how everything just collapsed, the inability to win faceoffs at any time, and the way that the veterans would disappear from time to time. And then you think about everything that went wrong specifically in the series. You think of the no goal call in Game 1 that cost them Game 1, that should not have cost them Game 1. There didn't need to be a Game 7 in this series, but there was. You think back to the first and the third periods in Game 3, where they allowed 3 and 4 goals that Igor was pulled. And that just disaster of a second period of Game 4, where Pittsburgh put in 5 and Igor was pulled. And they're, Game 5, backs against the wall, must win at home, and they're down 2-0 midway through, and you just start to feel the season fall apart. And then Adam Fox gets one. And a switch is just turned. In Game 5, they're down 2 goals. They find a way to tie it. They find a way to take the lead. And Pittsburgh counterpunched. And they battled back, and they found a way. And in game 6, down 2 goals, they again found a way to tie it and take the lead. And Pittsburgh quickly counterpunched, and the Rangers battled and found a way. Mika Zibanejad, who was on a milk carton for the entirety of the series up until that point, takes the game over, becomes the star, hat trick in game 6. Stop me if you've heard that one before. And, game 7, I posted on the BlueTruth page, these are the games we wait for as fans. The games that shoot you to the moon or crush your soul. And there was no in between. And that's how it has to be. And that's exactly what it was. Kreider gets one early. The Garden just explodes with electricity. And Pittsburgh with another ridiculous Toronto review goal because the puck gets over the line by this much. Adam Fox just missed it. And then Gensel gets one that was directly in front of my face. I was at the game. We'll talk about that. What I thought was a clear high stick above the crossbar. A clear high stick. But you knew the way the series went, there was no shot. No shot that it was going to get overturned. It never was. There was no way. It was never going to happen. Not against that team. Not against the chosen ones. Not against Sydney's team. Nothing was going to get overturned. And then Gay Andre Miller, a double doink off 2 Penguin skates that finds a way right in about a minute later. And then a few minutes after that, a shorthanded breakaway goal. Evan Rodriguez, and it just felt like the life got sucked out of the Garden. And sitting there, time just seemed to accelerate. Because you look up and it says 18 minutes, and you look up again, it says 16 minutes, and it just felt like everything was just speeding to a halt. The season was over. They weren't going to be able to go to the well again for another comeback. And then out of nowhere, Mika Zibanejad with a snipe that Inaki was kind of sniped, but he got it, ties the game, and it went to overtime. And Panarin with just a seeing eye shot. And we talk about the comeback kids, no quit in New York. And it's like, that's what it was. And at some point, you think back to 2012 and those teams that you let one goal in, it was over. You didn't think they were going to come back from that. And this is just such the opposite of that. They keep finding ways to win games that they have no business winning. And we've said that all year. You can think back to specific games. The Florida game, for example, back in December, whatever, no business winning that game, but they did. And to me, the way the story played itself out, this is what it means to be a fan of this team. When you really care about something. And I had this conversation with people all the time because I'm nuts, right? Like I talk about, the playoffs are nothing but stress and nausea. Everything is just, it's not even fun until it's over because you just want to just vomit everywhere because you're just that in angst. But when you care for something that much, for the highs to be that high, the lows have to be that low. And man, there were lows in this series. Game 1, triple overtime, the way that they lost that game, the way they had no business losing, they had it. The goal should have counted, and it didn't. It was taken, and you knew it was going to come back to bite them. And the way they got just obliterated in games 3 and 4, and they were down in game 5. You thought it was all over. And then they just remind you why you love the sport and why you love this team and why you've been rooting for this laundry for as long as you can remember. These are the moments you wait for forever. We will all never forget that goal and this series. That was the third Game 7 overtime winner at home for the Rangers. 94 with Matteau, 2015 with Derek Stepan, 2022 Artemi Panarin. And, it had to be Panarin, right? It had to be the big ticket guy who only wanted to play in New York, who had been criticized, rightfully so, for not being that dynamic scorer when the games got tougher and the pressure went up. A lot of regular season numbers, playoff comes around, ice not as easy to get to, had a lot of trouble with the puck on the series. all the he did it. He scored the goal. And all of the criticisms that we had of individual players on this team, who are, again, all well-deserved, of Zibanejad, of Kreider, of Panarin, of what they were first 4 or 5 games of this series, they responded. Other than Keandre Miller's goal in the second period last night, which went off of 2 Penguin skates, all the goals in the 6th game and the 7th game came from Zibanejad, Kreider, and Panarin. And it's not to discount what the kids did in this series because they carried the team at times. And what great experience that is for Lafreniere and for Kakko and Braden Schneider and Miller. And the list just keep going. But for them to be a part of this comeback, to be along for the ride and to lead that ride for times, completely invaluable for the future. When it came down to it, though, when the pressure was at its highest, the cornerstones of this team were the ones that shone the brightest. In Game 6 and Game 7, it came down to their leadership group: Mika Zibanejad, Chris Kreider, and Artemi Panarin. And Igor. How have I gone this far without mentioning Igor? It may not have been pretty at times, and seeing him pulled in Games 3 and 4, while it was the right call, it was a punch in the gut that you didn't know the team was going to be able to handle. And boy, did he show a huge set in Game 7. He kept them in it, and he came up big. That game last night is why we love this team. And for all the lows, and we know as Ranger fans, there are lows, those highs, you remember those highs for the rest of your life. We will not forget, no matter what happens from this point. I'm not saying it's house money. I'm not saying any of that. What I am saying is you will remember Artemi Panarin scoring an overtime game winner in the 7th game at home to cap off another 3-1 series comeback by this team. Shades of that run they had in 14 and 15. You start to see some of that. And it was wonderful. Absolutely, positively wonderful. I can't, to be there for that, it was, there's no words. There's really no words. And I want to bring on 2 guys here who have been very patiently waiting in the back. I guess got to make a couple changes here. Hank Indictor from Review. Jim Schmiedeberg from Blueshirt Underground. Let me take this stupid thing off.
Oh, I'm half in the shield.
There we go. Hold on. I'm getting there. So it's there. That's what I want. Okay. Jim, I want to start with you. You guys just did Blueshirt Underground, which is a phenomenal show. Everybody here should be following them. And the best content you're going to find in Ranger podcasting. I
literally clicked stop the show and then clicked StreamYard. I went from one right to the other.
as I was prepping for this, I was watching you. So.
It's my own version of triple overtime.
It was good.
Henry Indictor, the only man to ever come up to me on the streets of New York and go, "Aren't you Jim from BSU?"
True story.
True story. And Jen looked at me like, holy shit, you just got recognized on the streets of New York, which made you feel really good for a few minutes, but then you realize they still charge you $10 for a beer at the Molly Wee, so it doesn't really matter. But I appreciate it. It was nice to meet you that day.
Yeah, that was awesome.
That was pretty cool.
I couldn't help it, man. I have a habit of recognizing faces, just like I did with the guy to my left, and when I first met him, back in, what was it, November?
Yeah, he came to 150. Yeah, dude, what's going on? It was great. Jim, we were texting during the game. I said, "Avenge my death if I don't make it." I don't know what else you can say, right? Because look, I was as I said it, I was in my mind preparing to do a post-mortem and a eulogy on this team, and they never gave me the chance to do it, and I'm very, very thankful. It was just insane. The entirety, it just felt like in Game 5, something clicked.
Trouba to Crosby's shoulder or whatever it was. That's what clicked. I mean, let's face it, that was a turning point in the series. What are you going to? It happens. I'll go to the grave saying it was a legal hit, as are most of Trouba's hits. The guy hasn't been suspended for anything, so I don't really care. Any Penguin argument, an argument from a Penguin fan about a dirty hit is invalid. Sorry, you're invalid. You have, look at your own players. It's the team that employed Chris Neal, right, for so many years. Get out of here. Get out of here with that garbage.
What's that other guy's name? I'm thinking of him. He went to the Wild, but he hit McDonough.
Kunitz?
Matt Cook.
Oh, Matt Cook.
That was another thug.
There's another one, yeah.
Scumbag.
Last night, we're watching the game, and it's 3-2, and there's about 6 minutes to go. And I mean, let's face it, guys watching, there's nothing going on.
No,
there's just nothing going on. And they show the little graphic on the screen, shots on goal for the third period. At that point, they were, I don't know how many for Pittsburgh and 4 for the Rangers. And the rant in my head for our show tonight is already starting to form. And I'm like, and I'm just like, you got to be kidding me. This is how we're going to go down. This is 2015 against Tampa all over again. Is this really how we're going to go down with just a whimper at home when I said there's no way they lose this game at home? There's just no way. It's not going to happen. And Mika Zibanejad came through, and then thank God they didn't torture us too much last night in overtime. They got it done quick. Props to Gallant. He called that timeout when they got the power play. And I said to Jen, he's calling this timeout. He wants his first unit rested. He wants them to know what they have to do. And he's going for it now because he knows the longer this goes on, the worse it gets for us.
A modern miracle that they actually called a penalty on them in overtime. Like to me, in and of itself.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Absolutely true. Yeah, 3 times in this series, I stood up. I literally stood up and looked at Jen and went, do you still think we don't get the short end of the stick when it comes to this team? Do you still think that? And she just rolls her eyes at me. God love her. But, her kids are Penguins fans because their dad's a Penguins fan. So I had to kind of temper myself, but they weren't home for game 6 and game 7. So all bets were off. Curses were flying, derogatory chants, whatever.
It's the only way to fly. Hank, you were on. So I was in 115. I think you were down by where the goal was actually scored in overtime.
Yeah.
So I got to tell you, from my vantage point, I didn't really see the puck go in. All I saw was the jubilation. I knew what it meant. So from where you were, I mean, was it just clear? I mean, you saw it like just.
Oh yeah, it was totally in. And then I remember filming the whole celebration. Like I put some of it on like my Facebook post. Some of it was on my Insta story, but I obviously couldn't get all of it. I had to chop it down because a lot of the B-roll that I took from that goal was like shaky. Like I was like shaking the camera with my hand, and then my buddy Moshman, like that's his nickname, he was 3 sheets to the wind. He was like grabbing my shoulder next to me. I almost fell down. It was absolutely unreal. And then it took a while for me to find him getting out because of the crowd, because like I was schmoozing with some of the other people who I've seen a lot over the course of this season. It was just unbelievable. And that this has just been such an unbelievable story with this team. Like obviously you and I both knew that this was going to be a playoff team before the season. Obviously I wasn't expecting them to go too far in the playoffs. I figured maybe they go to the first round. It's going to be a tough, like 6 or 7 battle, but then 3-1 comeback. Absolutely. If you had told me that was going to happen before the season, I probably would have been asking you what exactly you guys were on. And the best part is the story continues another day. And again, am I expecting much against the Carolina Hurricanes? Not that much, but you know what? At this point, like, it is what it is. You never know with these Stanley Cup playoffs. Let's knock on wood.
To me, I look back at this. Why can't they just be this way all the time? Like, why do they have to put you through this? Like, why do they have to be down 2 goals or a goal? Like, why is there not something that just clicks? Like, why do you have to be down 2-0 to start playing?
I think your post, like it was about a week or 2 ago, said it best. It's a wonder how we all survived the 2000s or the 2010s, like with given what's going on.
Well, I told Jim a long time ago, I said, I don't know how we all made it through 94. If I had to go through 94 again, there'd be like, lines of names etched into stone. The people that we lost along the way, because I personally would not have made it through the Devils series. I would have died. There's no.
I was 24 then. It was a lot easier. I'm still screaming at the TV, ranting and raving. I'm still pacing the floor. It's still, you think part of you thinks you mellow as you get older, and I just think it gets worse because you know what it's like to win. You know what it's like to go through that and get to the end and then you spend the rest of your life chasing it. You know,
that's funny you mentioned that. I say that a lot. I said I'm chasing the high of when I was 10 years old, and I've been chasing it since I was 10 years old. And if they ever actually do it again, I'll be 10 years old again in my head. It's just,
and after I've been lucky enough to see the Rangers win, the Mets win, and the Giants win 4 times. But the first couple of times the Giants won, I was young, and when you're young, you just think when you win 1, you're going to win 20. That's how I felt in '94. I'm like, oh, we're going to win 3 in a row here. But it doesn't work.
As a Yankee fan, I know that all too well.
But, when I got older and the Giants won Super Bowl 42 and 46, I definitely appreciate it a lot more, because when you get older, you realize that just because you win 1 doesn't mean you're going to win another one anytime soon.
No, absolutely not. But
so all we can do is enjoy it. Hate it and enjoy it at the same time.
Is this house money now? Like that's the problem, right? Because we'll talk about the Carolina series. We're gonna have Noah Deibler on in a little bit to talk about the Pittsburgh side of things. I'm sure he's really enjoying life right now. But is this house money? I mean, they were dead to rights in Game 5. They were dead to rights in Game 6, and they were dead to rights in Game 7, and they are still breathing. And for a team that wasn't supposed to be this good this quick, are we as fans shortchanged? I think you mentioned this tonight too, Jim. Are we shortchanging to think this is as good as it's going to get?
Well, first of all, it amazes me to think that the NHL has been around over 100 years, and it amazes me that with all of the dynasties that have come along in this league, all of the great teams that have come and go in this league, and the 2022 Rangers are the first team to come from behind in 3 straight elimination games. I mean, this team with Philip Hedl, and Justin Braun, and some of the other guys that, aren't going to be remembered 20 years from now, like guys that played for, some of the great teams that have come along. This team is the first team to do that. Part of me says, yes, this is enough. I'm satisfied. Okay, it justifies the regular season. They got out of the first round. They proved that those games meant something. They proved that, they really were a good team. Part of me says that, and then the other part of me says, God, there's so much more to be had. There's so much more in front of us. We're only 12, we're only 12 wins away now. But it's hard. Carolina is going to be hard. They're going to need to be a lot better, and they're going to need to be a lot luckier, because you got to be both. You got to be both. It's not enough to be good. It's not enough.
See, obviously, like Brian, I'm a diehard Yankee fan, and I kind of have the mindset where my expectation is pretty much always going to be sky high. However, with that being said, usually it's sky high depending on the talent level that my team has. So in a way, yeah, I kind of would, because, I mean, look, Brian, you and I both were very fearful of the Carolina Hurricanes. We saw the progress that they made over the course of the past few years. Rod Brindamore has done a great job with that squad. So that's still true for me this round, just as much as like it was before the season started. But to say house money, I don't know. Like, selfishly, I still want to see this ride continue and go to the conference finals. But again, let's think back to what Brian said and what a lot of Ranger fans have been saying, like, throughout the course of the season. We weren't supposed to be this good this soon. There was a lot of overachieving, and I still think the best is yet to come, but I don't know. I don't know how I feel calling it like house money. Like, yeah, it was great that they beat Pittsburgh. It's always exciting, but then we also talked about it like right before I went back to my seats, like, after round 1, then that feeling of nausea, anxiety, it only gets worse from here on out.
It gets much worse.
Nonetheless, it's still been exciting.
I think one way to look at it is that if God forbid they don't make it out of the second round, it's going to hurt. It's going to sting. But maybe in a month from now, I'll be able to look back and say, you know what, this really was a great season, and it was great to get them to eliminate the Penguins.
Yes.
And I'll be okay. Whereas 7 years later, and I still can't believe they lost to the Tampa Bay Lightning 2-0 at home with Henrik Lundqvist in net. 7 years later, that still stings. That still hurts as much as just about anything else I've ever seen in sports. But I'm not going to. I don't ever think I would carry that kind of hurt from this kind of season. So it'll hurt if it ends. It'll hurt, but I think it'll pass more quickly than other seasons have. I still haven't gotten over 2015.
That
one still stings.
I think the way the series has played out, like you've had the near-death experience. So you've kind of because you felt it, right? You felt it getting destroyed in games 3 and 4, coming back to the Garden, and they just were lifeless. You're like, okay, this is over. And you start putting yourself 6 steps ahead, almost thinking, okay, the body's not even cold yet, but let's start eulogizing it. And then you say, I think the difference between something now and something like 2015 is in 2015, I think you felt when they lost that game that the music died. That was their best last shot. That it wasn't going to get better from there.
Right.
This doesn't feel that way because this is a very, very young team. Now, again, it is led by veterans, and I think that sometimes the young team thing gets lost because we start talking about all the kids. But at the end of the day, like we said to start the show, the people that got them through Game 6 and Game 7 were the veterans, the 29 and 30-year-olds, and Zibanejad, Kreider, and Panarin. That's where your bread is buttered, pardon the pun. But so this is not the best iteration of the Rangers. So the fact is, and they were this close to being dead 6 times already this week. So there are better things to come. This is not the end. Whereas 15 felt like lights are out. They weren't going to come back from that. So I think to your point, you do feel differently about it. You don't feel as crushed because you fully expect more of this.
Right. Well, yes, but the other side of that argument too is that it's not you get your chance, you get in the playoffs, you get a round behind you, and you don't want to waste it because you never know what could happen next year. There's no guarantee they get better next year. You assume they're going to get better because they've got guys that are young, but you never know what's going to happen. I mean, it takes one guy to get hurt. Anything can happen, and you can't take it for granted. So that's why I always say at the trade deadline, you got to have the mentality where if you think you're close, and if you do whatever you have to do, you do it. If you think you can get the pieces to compete for the cup, then you do it. Yeah, I mean, there's no fan alive that wouldn't trade those 5 guys again or make those deals on deadline day in 1994. Of course you would. Sure. Who cares? It's okay. Yeah, they gave up some great talent. It was some very talented guys. Yeah. We won a cup. It's all I care about. I had this conversation.
They lost a lot of trades that day, but nobody cares.
Right. They won the cup. And that's all that matters.
You can lose deals to win something now. There's nothing wrong with that. We're going to get to know here in a moment. But I want to but while I have you guys on with me, I want to take a look and start previewing the next round because we're still alive. They found a way, and they have Carolina up next. And look, Carolina is not Pittsburgh, okay? So let's just start right there. This is a very different team, a very different animal than we just played in Pittsburgh. So while Pittsburgh has star players who are up there in age, the star players for Carolina are very, very age appropriate, if you will. Aho and Svechnikov are their stars, 39 goals for Sebastian Aho, 30 for Svechnikov. They have secondary scoring as well. And they have guys who have kind of been thrown away elsewhere that have kind of worked out in Carolina. Nino Niederreiter at 24 goals, Tuvo Teravainen at 22, and Vincent Trocheck from the former Panther at 21. Carolina was the league's best defensive team. They allowed just 202 goals, number 1 in the regular season. Rangers were second with 207. So do we see low-scoring games, a departure from what we just saw? Maybe. They were the second best team at home, 29 wins. Only Colorado had more. Having said that, though, it did take them the full 7 to get by Boston. And I don't think we were really that impressed with Boston, even though they beat us at the Blueshirt Underground viewing party. Not that it didn't really matter because everything was set.
I was up to Boston for that one.
Yeah. But, they won every game at home. They lost every game on the road. They have the best PK in the league, 13th ranked on the power play. Rangers 4th in the power play, 7th on the PK. You think back to the games that these teams have played this year, and Carolina, for the most part, even in the loss, dominated those games. So the Rangers only won one game from Carolina. Carolina took 3. And they were all on the other side of in January. So there was a 6-3 loss. Rangers got outshot terribly, 35-23. There was that 2-0 win that Georgiev stole.
He had
44-18 were the shots.
How many shots did he?
44-18 were the shots in that game.
44. And he said that's one of the worst games he's ever seen.
And they won.
And they won.
Figure it out. The other 2 games later in the year were a little bit closer.
Yeah.
A 4-2 loss and a 4-3 loss. But the shots were close. It wasn't that crazy. And
yeah, Eddie went to that game in Carolina. He said it was one of the worst hockey games he's ever seen.
The storyline that you're going to see everywhere is the amount of ex-Rangers you're going to see that are on the Carolina Hurricanes. So Brady Shea, the defenseman who was traded there for Jesper Foss, a fan favorite, he's played second line here. Derek Stepan scored the OT goal against the Caps, longtime Ranger. Brendan Smith was a stabilizing force on the blue line last year. Antti Ranta was playing for them in round 1. He probably won't play round 2. And of course, everyone's controversial Tony DeAngelo is their top scoring defenseman. So these are all familiar faces. And I think that we all think everybody who plays us after they're not here is going to be the reincarnation of Wayne Gretzky. But as you look at that list, right? The easy answer is DeAngelo because he's got a huge chip on his shoulder after what happened here.
Mm-hmm.
I see people on social media say, "Oh, we missed DeAngelo." Where was he going to play?
No.
Where was he going to play? Just tell me you're getting rid of Trouba, Fox, or Schneider, and I can have that conversation with you because he's a right-hand defenseman. So I don't know.
He's running Carolina's power play. He wasn't going to run the Rangers power play. I mean, I think he's their first line defenseman. I'm not really sure.
He was their like wish version of Dougie Hamilton, the cheap way.
Brady Shea is still a lunkhead. I don't know if you watched Game 7, but he made a really bonehead play that led to a Boston goal. I know Tony DeAngelo's got 2 goals in him in this series. I just know it because he's got an immense chip on his shoulder. And he's going to want to stick it to the Ranger fans that booed him every time he touched the puck the last time they played at the Garden. Whatever. I fully expect it. I'm used to seeing ex-Rangers kill us. It always happens, no matter how big the name or how small the name. When Brian Boyle scored 2 goals on Henrik Lundqvist in the same game, on a breakaway. Whatever. I'm used to it. So this Carolina team is tough, and they come at you in waves. And Rangers, like I said, they've got to get a lot better and a lot luckier. Igor's going to have to. They disagreed with me in the chat room at our show. I said Igor's going to have to steal a game in this series because he didn't really do it in the first series. Some people argued that he did, but I'm like, you give up 3 goals a game, you're not really stealing it. I'm talking about 45 saves and you give up a goal or you shut him out. To me, that's stealing a game.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion. But yeah, I mean, Carolina defends well. They do everything well. They're well coached.
They are.
And our coach, he has no plan. So Arthur Staples said it in his column today. They have no plan. They're just resilient. So
amazing.
We'll see.
Yeah, no, I was thinking the same thing. Tony D getting a few goals. I feel like that's the safest bet in Vegas. No,
right? Like over under for goals in the series.
Yeah, no, I think 2 or 3 is probably the safe over under there. But yeah, no, I feel like I'm also in the kind of the minority of those people who didn't really miss Tony DeAngelo. And it's not really so much because of the incident that happened, which I'd rather not really think about anymore. I'm over it.
I just, you know what it is? I'm not getting into the intricacies. There are people that love him and hate him for all the wrong reasons on both sides. On both sides. No, I don't care. I don't care. This is supposed to be sports and everything. It becomes everything else. But to me, I don't buy that. From a pure hockey perspective, his time was done here.
No,
he was not going to be signed after his contract was up. And if you have 3 guys on the right side, well, I mean Fox, but you'd have an offensive guy. He doesn't really defend very well. Yeah. So Schneider's been a revelation since they brought him up. And I was the critical one of that pick. I said, they need a center. Again, I still feel that way, but he's worked out. So, I'm going to get some of these comments here, but I know that James said at the end, we lost him for nothing. There was no market. No one's going to give you anything of value for him. He did that. He did that to himself. Right. So, I mean, he signed a 1 year, $1 million deal in Carolina. This is not like, now he may have rehabilitated himself a little bit. We'll see, but neither here nor there. He wouldn't be here anyway. And I don't miss him all that much. I think we're just fine.
I would much rather have Adam Fox for 7 years before he's even in his prime.
And somebody was like, "Oh, I'd rather have DeAngelo than Fox." I'm like, well, that's cool. There are two people in the world that think that way: you and Tony DeAngelo. I don't. Right. Nobody else that would realistically think that. This is going to come down to me, and Jim, I agree with you entirely. Igor needs to be Igor in this series, and he needs to be Igor the entire time. Like, there's no 7-goal lapses on the road because they're not going to let you back in the way Pittsburgh did.
No. Yeah, no. I think that definitely is a valid point. Igor, I would say, definitely got better like later in the games, but yeah, I tend to side with Jim on that. The idea that he kind of stole a game, especially when he had a few games where he gave up, like where he got pulled, like I can't really say that he stole like a win in that series. I think it was more about like, it was a combination of him getting better and the Rangers just as a whole being resilient. Now, granted, obviously, the Penguins are like not the same team as the Canes, but in essence, what I'm trying to say is I think, yeah, Igor definitely has to be better. They cannot, and I mean, they cannot make the same mistakes that they made against the Penguins. And for goodness sake, please stay out of the box. Like all those penalties that they took. Like, I know look, don't get me wrong. I don't agree with a lot of the calls that were made in the series. That's neither here nor there, but the amount of times that they were in the box, that was probably the one thing that gave me the most agita in that series.
But that's the other thing is the Rangers beat the Penguins and the officiating in the first series. Yes. You're not going to get that in the second round. I don't think you're going to get the ticky-tack calls that you got on you because of the team that you're playing. I think that kind of goes out the window, which is a very good thing because they survived it.
Right.
Very, very, very barely, but they survived it. So, again, they're going to have to defend better. I think that's it. I think they're going to dictate whether they win or lose the series. If they can defend in front of him, he'll be okay. He will keep you in a game.
Yes.
So,
and the one thing they can hang their hat on with Igor is that in the 5 games that he did play a third period, he didn't give up a goal in the third period the entire series.
Yeah.
So the only late goal he gave up was the overtime goal. And like I said, there's 2 games where he didn't play the third period, but we don't talk about those because that series is over.
What does your gut tell you about this series? If you have to make
it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. I will never ever not predict them in a series. So I'll just give you Rangers in 7, and that's all I got. That's all I got. But this is going to be very tough. I think. I don't like the way they match up against this team. I just think every time I think every time they've played Carolina looks like they're playing at a different speed than the Rangers do.
Yeah.
And that's scary. But, I kept thinking all along we get Carolina in the second round. That's going to be really tough. But Boston did take them to 7 games. So if Boston could take them to 7 games, then I think the Rangers could take them to 7 games. And then part of me thinks, well, maybe the Rangers were a little better than Boston. I mean, they're definitely better in goal, but they've got it. But it's just a lot of things got to break right.
Yeah.
Get one of the first 2 in Carolina, and then anything can happen.
Thank you, Reed.
So, you going any second round games?
I don't know yet.
You don't know yet? Okay.
I don't know yet.
Did you see the Hurricanes were restricting who could buy tickets?
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Didn't the Lightning pull that shit like 7 years ago?
Everybody, you know what? Everybody does. That's fine. That's fine. I mean, look, the secondary market's real. It's just people don't care. They'll buy them up.
Right. Mm-hmm. Even we looked on StubHub because we started talking about it on our show, and I looked on Ticketmaster. When you get through, it does tell you that it's not going to let you buy them, and I think the tickets were $95 or something like that for the first round.
Are you saying on StubHub you couldn't buy them?
No, Ticketmaster.
Oh, okay.
But then I went to StubHub, and those same tickets were like $105. But even StubHub kills you in fees now. I
They
mean,
do.
they're a lot worse than they used to be.
But comparatively to MSG, to buy secondary market, you could go to 3 games.
Right. With 2 tickets, two of the cheapest tickets that I saw on StubHub with fees were $300.
Yeah.
So, and the cheapest ticket on Ticketmaster for the Rangers at the Garden was $490, I think.
Yeah.
So 2 people could go to the game and you get a night in a hotel on somewhere between here and there. And
For the same.
So
Hank, what you read in the series?
Oh man, yeah. I'm gonna have to go. Jim, Brian, I'm sorry, but my prediction's Carolina in 6. And look, I take no pride in making that whatsoever. I want to be wrong. Like, one of my biggest mantras, and Brian, you may remember me saying this on Big Blue Avenue when we talked Giants Cowboys. I would rather be wrong and happy than right and kind of upset.
Oh, absolutely.
So I think Carolina is just a well-coached, big, physical, fast team that the Rangers have struggled all season long with. They're going to steal a game or 2. Like, they're not going to get swept. There's no doubt in my mind about that. But with that being said, I just think this is too good of a team. And they were one of my teams that I thought was a possibility of winning the cup before the season, if I'm being honest. So
yeah,
I'm giving them the edge at Carolina in 6. But then again, like you guys said, they pushed Boston to 7. They were pushed 7 by Boston. Sorry, you know what I'm going to say. And and it's the Stanley Cup playoffs. Anything can happen. Once again, I'm going to knock on this wooden desk in front of me, but still LGR, regardless of what my prediction is.
Absolutely. All right, that's it for me, guys.
All right, Jim.
3-hour video.
All the Ranger fans that are watching the show, you need to follow Blueshirt Underground Radio. I have known these guys for what feels like not that long, but it's actually more like 10 or 12 years at this point. And they're wonderful. I can't say enough good things about them. If you are not checking out their content, it is your loss.
Thank you, sir.
I think we lost. Jim, did we lose you?
Frozen?
Oh, there you wait. He's not moving.
Oh, jeez.
That's okay.
Oh.
That's it lasted long enough. So I'll leave him there until he figures it out. Oh, I'm trying to get Noah's attention. Here we go. He's all right. He's okay. All right. But yes, I just want to put this comment up here again. Make sure that you're checking out Jim Schmiedeberg and Eddie Geik, Blueshirt Underground on Facebook and YouTube. They are wonderful. We're waiting for Noah Deibler, the Penguins fan. He will be here shortly. We'll talk about just the other side of that series. I think it's interesting to kind of see the other side there, but I have been lax on the comments. So let me go ahead and read on some of these. Here's Paul Sugg, staying alive. Absolutely. Alec Hiddell, that was something. It's unbelievable. Hank, I think you know this guy.
Me? No, couldn't be.
Looks just like
maybe my twin.
Connor Nicolini, the fact when Kreider doesn't score, we lose. That's true. That's
true.
Look, he's a 52-goal scorer, right? I mean, he scored. How many games has he scored in that you've won and lost, frankly? But absolutely. Noah, who'll be on the show, says Rangers are big fan meanies because obviously he as a Penguins fan. Savior says on video it was a high stick, but Toronto was always screwing the Rangers. Listen, I was there and I said there's no way. You could see it was right above the crossbar. So
I'm going to be honest. I thought it was borderline, but since they called it on the ice, I knew they were going to give him the goal.
Oh, absolutely.
I didn't think that was as bad as the Philip Hedl incident. We don't talk about that.
Well, the Rangers are the first team to win a series 5-2 because they had game 1. Game 1 was stolen from them. There's no other way around it. And Ron says we weren't getting that call, and it's right. At no point was that going to happen.
Yeah.
At no point. Connor says Cryberry Crosby is packing. There's Tom Scavetta, your boy. Let's go Rangers.
How's it going, Tom?
Robert Scatini, the story continues to write itself. This team is improving every game. I feel that should scare the rest of the league. We know what Tampa looks like at their best. Carolina, the As, we haven't seen them be their best yet. I feel we move on in spite of that. This is tough. I mean, Carolina, I think the world of Carolina. So you kind of have to separate your heart from your head and like try to be as objective as possible. You can cheerlead, that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. But to me, this is a tough test. I mean, this may be a tougher test than potentially their next round opponent because I think Tampa Bay might find a way through. But Carolina's deep. And Carolina's good. So
I've got Tampa winning in 7, by the way.
Yeah, I have Tampa win that series as well.
I know Garth will approve of that.
Yeah. Ron Spacito, I believed in Kreider with this coach. And that's a great point because he does fit, I think, what Gallant wanted in that net front presence. He hasn't really been that before. Very Adam Graves-ish, which is ironic because he scored the same amount of goals as Adam Graves did. But he again, they need him to be that force. There's no other way for them to get through a playoff series if their leadership is not leading. And that's what they kind of treaded water through the first 5 games because of that. Because they didn't get any really any tangible contributions from 10, 93, and 20. It's when that dial got turned that things really went in their way. And Paul Suck says redemption for Panarin is amazing. If he was saving his playoffs for that, there you go. All is forgiven. We're alive. Fix it for the next round. Do a little bit better. Try to spread through. Agreed? So, Robert Skinny again. Panarin was pretty terrible all game 7 until he scored the game-winning goal in OT. Hopefully that monkey's off his back. We'll need him here going out. Yeah. Hank, just your thoughts on, obviously, again, like we said, the leadership at the end took them through, and that's wonderful. But from the standpoint of having the kids lead at times, that's something that they'll take forever.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a really good confidence booster for them from here on out. They will have had that experience. And look, if you look throughout history with regards to how the Stanley Cup playoffs have gone, that pretty much matters. And it pretty much explains why you've seen teams like Pittsburgh, and I hate that I'm using them as examples, like go on numerous runs to win the cup. It's why I think Chicago in 2009 gained something out of that Eastern or Western Conference Finals trip against the Detroit Red Wings when they lost in 5. And I had a feeling the next year that they were going to go on to do bigger and better things. Didn't think they'd win 3 and 5. And sadly, I didn't think about all the other shit that happened with them. But that's a sad story for another day. But in other words, experience definitely does matter. And the fact that you got Lafreniere, like he not only will score big goals, but he goes out of his way to defend teammates. Like that's one of the things I always loved about that kid. And it's why he's probably at the top of my list for next jersey I'm considering purchasing as well.
I have 3 of his. I have.
Yeah, no, I was going to say, I know you have him. I know you love the guy too. And another guy that I really want to mention that I feel like isn't getting praised enough is Keandre Miller.
Oh yeah.
Second half of the season, much improved as opposed to say the first half. He's gotten 3 or 4 game-winning goals this year. And honestly, my hot take about Game 7, even though Pittsburgh scored not too long after Keandre scored that weird double doink goal off the goalie off Jari, I think that might have arguably been the turning point of that game because let's put it this way. What if he doesn't score and say
sure,
you still have that really bad jack in the box turnover goal that Pittsburgh scored? We're down by 2. The way we were playing in that third period for the first half, literally besides my buddy Moshman next to me, most of the people in my section were just so doom and gloom, oh, this game is over. This game's over. Imagine if that goal doesn't happen.
No, it was a massive. It was very timely for one because it was a snap reaction and response to the BS that had just happened a minute before. So for sure, Dan Demers Penguin series was an amazing experience with a team. They'll all be better because of what they're able to do in this series. Tolyan Barazan, great win. F the Pens hard. It never dies. It never dies. Brian Winnis, great series against Pittsburgh to take on that experience against Carolina. Frankie, glad they played Jari. That was another mistake by the Pens. I'm going to ask Noah about that for in just a moment or two here. Robert Scatini, we get a chance to redeem ourselves against the bubble postseason. Kaka was our best player in that series, and he was. Again, the scoring I think will come eventually, but he was a force in this series. Great defensive play. Again, leading the charge late in games, keeping the puck in the Penguin end. I mean, that you can't necessarily put a price on that. Peter, big fan of the show. Regardless of what happens, the playoffs is a valuable experience moving forward. I completely agree. Brian Daly from A2D Radio, love those guys. BA, what's up, my guy? Appreciate that. Matchups, the second round is going to be really fun to watch. He says with Freddie coming back, it's going to be make Carolina a little tougher to beat. I think it's going to go 7. I would love it if it went 7 because I would take 7. I think the longer the series goes, the better it is for the Rangers. Having said that, if we're talking in a week and a half and Carolina won this series in 4 or 5, I'm not going to say that I was overly shocked by it because I base on what I've seen these two teams do against each other this season, and Carolina's dominated them. But again, I think when you start putting some doubt in Carolina's head, you win a game in their building, like Jim said, that does change the equation a lot. So I can absolutely see that for sure. John Damiano, this team is deadly now. Need to win that first round. Getting rid of Tunity was a mistake. I don't think so, but he's not that good of a player to take over a series. We have better. Watch what Miller does this round. Peter Manassi, and I'll take Brandon Smith over Nemeth for half the money. Listen, Patrick Nemeth is a bitch. Shoot him into the sun. I said that in thinking game 4. And
Patrick Nemeth, who? Him?
Yeah, he needs to cease to exist. I'm so over that.
No, I agree with that too. I would have rather had Brendan Smith.
Brian Daly, Hurricanes are the one better set up teams in the league, can score off transition. It's true. Rangers can score off transition with the scores that they have. Again, this might be a low scoring series if the numbers from the regular season actually do pan themselves out, because these were the 2 best defensive teams. Shockingly enough, right? The 2 least amount of goals allowed in the league. Let's see what we got here. Joe Danzo, Pittsburgh was a quiz. Carolina a test. I like that. I like what he's thinking. Let's see here. And Peter, what do you think of Strome so far? His future as a Ranger? I think he's playing his last couple games as a New York Ranger right now. I don't think he gets re-signed. I think he's going to end up winning too much money, and he's going to price himself out of New York, and it is what it is. If I'm giving the money to anybody, I'm giving it to Andrew Kopp. I love what I've seen from Andrew Kopp. Different kind of player, can play center if you need him to. I'm good there. John Matfield, Goodrow will be a big help if he can come back. Apparently, he's not going to be available the first 2 games of the series. When it comes back to New York, we'll see for sure. And then Robert Skinny says, I'm loving Tyler Mott. And that's the thing. Tyler Mott, I think, has done a real nice job of filling in Goodrow's role. Kind of similar-ish type players. Him coming back was really an understated, underrated wrinkle in this series. I think I think tipped things. Brian Daly, gotta run, keep the good stuff. Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, Brian Daly, friends of ours from over at A2D Radio, Hockey Happy Hour, they do a really nice job. Make sure you check them out. More national, I think, than we are specifically talking about the New York Rangers, but I can't say enough good stuff about what those guys do. So make sure we check out Tom and all the guys over at A2D. They're good, great guys. So before we look forward, we actually did look forward a little bit, but we'll look to the past a little bit and talk about the series that we just got out of, the win against the Pittsburgh Penguins. And I bring on Sportsbox friend and teammate Noah Deibler joining the show as a Penguins fan who willingly came on to get all of what was coming to him for being the fan of a team that lost. And I respect the hell out of that more than you know, because he could have told me to go screw myself. I am not coming on camera. I am mad at my team. He didn't do that. So credit to Noah on that. So thank you for the time. We will not be too harsh. We'll be too harsh. A little harsh.
Noah, I know you would have done the same thing had Houston by some miracle pulled off that World Series on hitting for the cycle. So,
well, I would have been very pissed off like I am right now, but I'm still here. So on my McDonald's Wi-Fi. So if I drop out like Thanos snapped, you know what happened. But I would say it's nice to be here, guys, but, it's bittersweet at best. But I hope you guys are doing well. And, before I go ranting and raving, I just want to say genuine congratulations to you guys on winning this series. Pittsburgh did not want this series, because if they did, this should have been over by Game 5. But, they did their classic, and you guys know I'm an Atlanta sports fan. They did their classic Atlanta impression with one of the best choke jobs I have ever seen in my time watching sports. But how are you guys doing tonight?
We were both at the game, so we're actually doing very well.
I see.
We
Yes.
had the experience of that. I will not forget that. As long as I am walking God's green earth, I will not forget that experience last night. But let me start here. So for you, without getting, we're going to get into your off-season thoughts because there's a lot to unpack there. But from your side of things, can you just summarize what we all just lived through, like what you thought overall, your view of the Rangers from the opposite side, whether the things that you thought they did well, the things that you thought were exploitable, just a general overview of a team that took Pittsburgh they went as far as they could go, was the overtime of the 7th game.
I was impressed with the Rangers offensively. I thought the top guys, Adam Fox destroyed us. I thought Zibanejad was very good. Panarin, I know he was kind of hit or miss for the series, but when it mattered the most, he was great. I really liked what I saw from him. I thought, I'll admit it. And by the way, for anyone that doesn't know me, I'm not a normal Pittsburgh fan. I'm not delusional. We got away with it in game 1. I think we should have lost that game. We got a break, and we capitalized in overtime. So splitting the first 2 games I think was good. Then game 3, they tried their best to choke that game as well. It was like 4-1 or something. It was back to 4-4, and luckily they scored 3 in the third to recover that one. Game 4 was their best game of the series, obviously. And then we get to games 5 and 6, right? Classic choke. They give up 3 goals in the span of 5 minutes in game 5, and 3 goals in the span of, I think it was 8 minutes in game 6. Basically the same thing they did in game 3, except they didn't have Sidney Crosby and Jake Gensel to bail them out in those games. I believe both those games were 5-3 with empty netters, something like that.
Yep.
And just want to give a shout out as well to Louis Domingue with that game-winning goal for the Rangers in game 6. Just an absolutely incredible job, man. I don't know what he was doing. And for that guy, where is he? That guy that said, where is he? I want to find this comment. I want to address this because I completely disagree with this. It was that guy talking about Tristan Jarry. I can't find it now, but he said playing Tristan Jarry was a mistake. I'm sorry, but I don't know how much of this series you watched, but Louis Domingue, other than game 1 in the overtime, he was not very impressive this series. And like I said, he basically gifted game 6 to the Rangers. As for game 7, I guess I'll talk about Tristan Jarry first. I don't even think really any of the goals are majorly his fault. I think the first one, it's a 2-on-1 top shelf off the bar shot. That was a remarkable shot. I don't know. I mean, I think it was Chris Kreider that scored that. Yeah, I don't think it was a mistake. Not only because Domingue played crap, DeSmith also got hurt. I will say that I was really impressed with DeSmith in game 1. He got hurt, which hurt us as well. But the goals in game 7, I mentioned, 2-on-1. The second one, Mike Matheson is screening his own goal. He goes off a skate. Thanks a lot. Another pile on the Penguins defense. The third one, turnover in the defensive zone. Zibanejad has basically a shot from the right slot near the faceoff circles. Just an easy shot. And then the fourth shot, Panarin, you cannot let Artemi Panarin. I know he didn't have a good game. He missed tons of shots in that game. You cannot let a sniper like that get that close to the net, and it's over. So could you tell Jerry wasn't 100%? Well, absolutely.
Go ahead. To interrupt you, but to your point, what option did they have? I didn't think that they could bring Domingue back. From my understanding, is Jerry wasn't even fully healthy. That when he was trying to walk out of media afterwards, like he was not like there, like his foot was like that bad. So I just think that you couldn't bring him back after that. Like I don't think they had a choice.
I think if they had, maybe if they had still lost game 6, but it was in a different scenario. But when the last thing you do as a Pens goalie is what he did in game 6, just mishandling that puck, it trickles into his net. That's inexcusable. I'm sorry. I know he's a third string goalie for a reason. And look, I personally like him. I've actually seen him play live 5 times for the Atlanta Gladiators when he was in the ECHL. So when I heard he was in the Penguins, I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. But he's a third string guy for a reason. If you're talking a healthy Domingue or, an 80% Jarry, I'm taking Jarry every day of the week. Yeah. And I know he gave up 4 goals, but, when you look at the goals, I don't really see one where you look at it and he's like, oh, he made an obvious mistake. He made a breakaway save, a shorthanded, which when they saw that, I'm like, oh, my God, they're going to do what we just did to them, right? He made some great saves. He made some good glove saves as well on a power play. So I know you look at it and you say, he gave up 4 goals, but I think a lot of it was on the defense. First goal, John Marino pinches up. And then perfect line change by the Rangers. They get a 2-1. Nothing there is Jarry's fault, and the others I went over. But as for the Rangers, look, I think they wanted it more than us. I don't know about that, Peter. I don't think they did a very good job at all. But I will say this. The Pens both had no business winning this series, and they also absolutely should have won this series. Because if you told us before, if we had a third-string goalie for most of the series, if Crosby misses a game in half and you tell us, we go to Game 7, are you serious? What are you talking about? We should have gotten swept. But at the same time, the chokes in Game 5 and 6 were inexcusable. They got away with it in Game 3. Game 7, they had lead after lead. They tied it up at 1-1. Then they went up 2-1. Okay, you get that, I'm going to call it a fluky goal. I don't know if that sounds homerish or salty. Just going off a skate like that, that's a ball buster, man. It really is to tie up the game. And then you give up the lead again with about 6 minutes to go in regulation. Once they went on the penalty kill in overtime, I knew it was over because the Rangers just had all the momentum. So, yeah, it was a great series. But, you said it best when you started the show, Brian. This sport has the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. And this isn't like some baseball game. You go to extra innings, you give up a run, maybe you can tie it up or, get a walk-off. This isn't basketball where it doesn't matter until the final 10 seconds of the game. It's not even like football anymore since they freaking changed the rule to where a touchdown doesn't win the game. One goal and your season is over. So, yeah, as soon as I saw he scored, instantly turned off the TV. I gave my, congratulatory GG messages to all my Ranger fans, and then I logged off for the night because I just was.
Well, let me give you this. It was either Lundqvist or Valaket in Ranger postgame said that. I think it might have been Henrik, that Jarry went down too early. And I think that the Rangers were trying to hit top corners, and they did on Kreider's goal and the tying goal and Zibanejad in the third period. So I will tell you, I went back and watched the game again because I was there. Obviously, I wanted to kind of get a different perspective. And they talk about Valaket talks a lot about the Royal Road, puck going across the goalie makes it so much more harder to make a save on it. But that was the slowest Royal Road I think I remember, where like everybody and their mother knew that Kreider was going to take a shot. And Jarry was like, it wasn't that he like just rushed over to get, like he was fully there. Like he was set up for it. And he just sniped it over his shoulder. Like it almost, and that's again, semi close to the Zibanejad goal where again, it's kind of the same spot. That must have been part of pre-scouting that like he goes down early and that opens up the upper part of the net.
I think you could say he maybe could have done a little better job, but at the same time, my logic is if it's a 2-on-1 and it's a shot top down off the bar, I'm not going to place majority of the blame on the goaltender. I mean, the defense, that was a defensive shambles by Marino. He pinched up. No one recovered, or no one, when a defenseman pitches up, the winger is supposed to go back and cover for him. Instead, the Penguins decided, oh, wait, it's a 2-on-1 the other way. Absolutely. And credit to the Rangers, man. Perfectly timed line change. That was just very well executed by them to get a 2-on-1. And then our defenseman, he's doing his best, ice skating impression. Don't know what he's doing, just going down on his ass like that. Me personally, when you're in a 2-on-1 like that, and the other guy was on his forehand, just let him shoot it. Don't let Chris Kreider get a one-timer. I always hate when they do that. Just try and take away, Chris Kreider basically. Give him that other shot. I think that Jarry has a better shot of saving that one. But the other goals, like I said, the second one was basically an own goal. The third one, okay, yeah, maybe he could have saved it, but it's still a shot by Zibanejad from, basically the face-off circle, and then Panarin. So Jarry was not the reason they lost that game. I'll say that right now. They lost the game because their defense is atrocious. It's just always been so bad. And yeah, I know they've never had a great defense. What their thing is, okay, we'll outscore you. And I got to say, my main positive for playing Igor, and I talked about how great the Rangers defense was the second half. Pittsburgh's offense in the series was fantastic. Like other than game 2, they scored more than 3 goals in every single game. They dominated games 3 and 4. They just absolutely obliterated them defensively. If the Rangers play like that against the Carolina Hurricanes defensively, they're losing in 5 games. I'll say that right now. You cannot do that against a team that quality. Way better than us. They're not going to blow lead after lead like we did. And, I don't know if they're playing Ronta or if Anderson will be able to come back. If Anderson comes back, I know, he's had some inconsistency in the playoffs in the past. But last year when I watched him, I actually thought he was one of the least best players. And then he went down. Campbell came in. What do they know? They blow the series, just like they did against the Lightning this year as well. Congratulations to them. But I will say this, guys. This does suck a lot. But long term, I think it might actually be better for him because I think they might finally say, okay, you know what? Letang and Malkin, they're free agents. Crosby's 34. Maybe we should finally, pull the trigger on this rebuild that's been long overdue. Because, in my opinion, the most important player on the Penguins isn't even Sidney Crosby. You need to build the team around Jake Gensel. He's still only 27. The guy is an absolute stud. 8 goals in a playoff series. And you can't pick that guy up. Okay, you want to say, high stick, whatever. Even without that, 7 goals in the playoff series. Ridiculous. And no one can step up for that guy. You can't step up for your fallen captain in the second half of Game 5 and Game 6 because, look, I know I was talking to our good buddy Tom Scavetta, and, he said he was making excuses. But what I basically said was Game 5 turned on its head after Sidney Crosby left the game. Now, that's no excuse to blow that game. You still need to close that out. But that's not a coincidence. But that said, I saw just 2 years ago the Tampa Bay Lightning win a World Series. You can tell I'm thinking about actual good teams I have. win the Stanley Cup when their captain, Steven Stamkos, basically played one shift the entire playoffs. Injury is only so much of an excuse. And yeah, I know. Don't get me wrong. Oh, yeah, if we had Jerry the whole series and Crosby doesn't get hurt, definitely a better chance. I don't even think that's debatable. But you got to step it up. You cannot – I don't care how good the Rangers are. Don't get me wrong. I like a lot of your players. I think Lafreniere and Kakko, great prospects. I think Adam Fox, top 3 defenseman in the league. You know how high I think of Igor Shesterkin, Brian. So
listen, full disclosure for those who don't know, Hank, Noah called the Vezina.
He
before
did
the season. That is documented.
Back in August or September, whatever it was.
You said he's going to win the Vezina, and I said that's lofty praise. That's great. That's what I would love to see it. And here we are.
Fantastic team, but I don't care what it is. There's no excuse. I don't care if you're playing the 1980s Edmonton Oilers. There is no excuse for giving up 3 goals to a team in less than 10 minutes. That's just an inexcusable choke. So it's disappointing. I'm not surprised. I mean, I did predict the Rangers to win this series in 6, and I even said on that playoff show, Brian, I said that's probably a little generous. They could win it in 5. So if you told me before the series they go to 7, I'd take it. But it's not exactly why that they lost that I'm mad about. It's the way they lost. That was such a winnable series. They could have won Game 5 and Game 6, no problem. They let the Rangers get back into it, and momentum, it's a dangerous thing, man. So, once they scored with 6 minutes left, I'm like, oh, my God, are you kidding me? And I was just ticking down the minutes, hoping to God they could get down to 2 minutes, pull the goalie, score an empty netter. And then the guy turns it over to Zibanejad, and once he shot, I'm like, here we go. And, yeah, it is what it is. So must have been great to be there. I was at home watching it, trying not to punch my TV screen, basically. But, yeah.
You alluded to this, and we've been talking about this on the show all year, that there is going to be a changing of the guard in this division, that Washington and Pittsburgh, the teams that have dominated this group for the better part of a decade and a half. I mean, they're on the way down. And you mentioned again, Malkin's a UFA. He's 35. Brian Russ is a UFA. He's 30. Chris Letang's 35. He's UFA. They currently have about $29 million worth of space. Is this the end? Because I think we had a conversation, you and I, last year, where we said, is this the end? When they lost to the Islanders, which I was clearly not a fan of. Where are you with that? Because, and I don't necessarily mean what should they do, but what do you think they do? Do you think, apparently they were given 3-year, $15 million offers to Malkin and Letang, and Crosby got mad at that they were lowball offers to him. But, again, they brought in Ron Hextall, who is known as a rebuild GM, whether it worked or not. That's what he was. Now he tried, didn't work out very well in Philadelphia, as you can see. But does the music die? Is this the end? Do they have another run in them?
No, they don't. I hate to say it. Last year I was like, I think the window's almost closed, but maybe they have one more run in them. I think this was it. I think, with Malkin and Letang being free agents, and look, I don't want to disrespect either of these guys. These are franchise legends. These are guys who should have their number up in the rafters once they retire. But they're not the guys they used to be. Chris Letang, I've said it about him for over a year now, honestly, I'd probably say. his offensive production does not make up for the defensive mistakes and the turnovers anymore. He had 3 times as many turnovers in this series as he did takeaways. That's never going to cut it with a team that has the offensive weapons the Rangers have. And look, I respect him a lot. I actually remember in 2016 when he played the Sharks, he got the game-winning goal in the Stanley Cup clinching game. So, I'm always going to have love for him. But I personally would not bring him back. I honestly would have traded him while they could, while he still had to add value. Instead, he's probably going to go for nothing. So, got to thank Jim Rutherford for not pulling the trigger on that one. And as for Malkin, same thing. Malkin is actually, this might surprise you guys, I actually like Malkin more than Crosby. Not because I think he's a better player, but because I just always respected how, he's kind of like Draisaitl, to where he'd be like the best player on 90% of teams he plays on, but he plays behind this generational superstar.
Sure.
He just quietly gets the job done. Look, he's not the guy he used to be. I've said he's declined. He's still a good player. I'm not saying he's crap by any means. If he went to a team like the freaking, I don't know, who's the team that could use a center? Maybe the Florida Panthers. If they got him.
The Rangers actually could use a center.
Okay, if he went to New York Rangers, you guys would instantly love that guy. You'd be like, wow, this guy's actually a stud. So I still think he has it in him. But like you said, Brian, if we're going to give these guys $7-8 million a year when they're both 35 years old, like, I'm sorry, but you got to go.
Yeah.
We can use that. We can use that money to try and fix our bottom 6 or whatever, whatever they want to do. But this is the culmination, guys, of years. And look, I respect what Jim Rutherford did. You have to respect him. He won a cup with the Hurricanes. He won 2 with us. But eventually, this policy of trading high draft picks catches up to you. Okay, it's fine when you get Phil Kessel back, right? And, he should have won a Conn Smythe. I think Crosby robbed him of one there. It's fine when you get a guy like that. But when you're trading it for, high picks for guys like Patrick Marleau or Jared McCann, and then he's off the team in 2 seasons.
But here's what I would say to that, right?
Okay.
I don't disagree with them being all in when you have Crosby and Malkin at the time. I don't, for all of the talk, we talk a lot of football obviously in the sports box. So I've been very critical of the Packers and drafting Jordan Love when you have Aaron Rodgers. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is, like, you don't think about tomorrow. Like, you're not worried about 2 or 3 years down the road because you have Aaron Rodgers right now. So from a Pittsburgh standpoint, although it hasn't worked, they haven't gotten over the hump since they haven't won a cup in a couple of years. What, 16, right? So
17.
Sorry, I'm getting older, and anyway. But what I'm saying is, like, you should be all in when you have those players. You should. You make the back end of it worse. Mm-hmm. But you have to take your shot while you have a good hand.
No, I agree with that, Brian. What I'm saying is trading for guys like Patrick Marleau or Jerry McCann, that's not going all in. Going all in is trading your first-round pick in Kasperi Kapanen and like a first-round pick and something else for Phil Kessel. That's a move you make. But when you haven't had a first-round pick since 2019, and before that you have to go all the way back to 2014, eventually that catches up to you. And they couldn't keep Phil Kessel because they couldn't pay him. I understand it. I loved him while he was here. I even loved him in Toronto. But, they haven't found a guy to fill in for Phil Kessel. I know I love Brian Rust. I think he's a great top 6 guy, and Ginsel's a superstar. But since then, they haven't had that guy that can step up in the piles consistently. Okay, Crosby and Ginsel were great. Where the hell is everybody else when we need them the most in Game 7? When we need them Game 5 and 6. Where are they? So I agree with going all in, but eventually there comes a point to where you say, even Pittsburgh in the past 4 years at their strongest, could you honestly say they were the best team in any of those seasons? Because I don't think so. No. They weren't better than the Lightning. They're obviously not better than the Rangers or the Hurricanes at this point, or the Avalanche. So if they had somehow squeaked by the Rangers in this game, my thing is like, okay, great, we advanced. I'll celebrate it for 2 days. And then we're getting smoked by the Hurricanes. They're going to get, what is it, Category 5 hurricane is the worst. They're going to come in to destroy Pittsburgh. That's what's going to happen. So long term, and look, I told both of you guys this in the PM's heartbreaker, right? Yep. But long term, it might actually work out because it might finally. And this is the thing with mentioning Ron Hextall. He has no attachment to any of these players. If it was Jim Rutherford here, if Jim Rutherford was still here, I'd have no doubt he would try and keep Malkin and Letang. But because it's Hextall, I think he might pull the trigger on the rebuild. which, I've told you this for about a year or two now, Brian. I've been all for.
Sure, you have. No, you've been consistent there, and I hear you on that. Now, a lot of questions coming in here. A lot of comments. Do you see Crosby another sweater? Do you think he'll stick around?
Oh.
Alec Cadell can't imagine Crosby wearing another jersey. It would be weird. Ovi either. Now, we've had our own situation with that where Henrik didn't want to leave. Like he said, I'll hang around, and well, that probably did not work for him. And eventually, there was the buyout. And look. I'm upset for him that he never won. I'm glad he never played for another team. I mean, that to me meant a lot. So from your standpoint, is this, so I'm 90% sure that Crosby's got 3 years left on a deal, paying him $8.7 million because he's number 87. That's really the only reason, which ironically enough, I'm at the game last night and I see one of the linesmen wearing number 87. And I'm like, of course it's fixed. I'm like, yeah, you're kidding me. Right. Yeah, so he's got 3 more years. He's 34. Now, again, I mean, we had this conversation with Chicago and Taves and Kane. Like, these are all-time players that have won championships. Is this guy going to finish his career in Pittsburgh, or is he going to kickstart the rebuild with a Herschel Walker trade?
This is, oh my God, this is like asking me to choose between my newborn kids if I had any. I'm like, which way do I go? Because you're talking one of the greatest Penguins that has ever worn the jersey. Like, he's either the second or third best Penguin. I think you could make arguments for either him or Yager being second best, because let's be honest, we all know who number one is. Greatest player of all time, not named Wayne Gretzky, but
Gordie Howe. That's the only other player I would argue besides Gretzky or like Mario for like second or third.
Oh, like you're saying history of the game. Oh, yeah. He means specifically.
I was talking about Penguins.
No, just Penguins.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, Mario.
No, which is ironic because they've had so many superstar players that it's like, like, oh, how do you rank your Mount Rushmore of Pittsburgh Penguins? Oh, it's like the NHLs, so.
Mario Lemieux is the greatest Penguin and the second best player of all time, in my opinion.
I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
But what was I saying? Crosby's an absolute legend. Obviously, he's won 3 cups with us, 09, 16, 17. But you mentioned it, Brian, his contract for how great he is. I mean, do you honestly think there's 10 players in the game right now better than Sidney Crosby? I mean, I'd have to think of him off the top of my head, but, maybe not. I still think he's up there. He's easily a first-line forward still, only making $8.7 million.
He was a star in the series.
He was incredible.
I don't necessarily like wish injury on anybody, right? I mean, kind of, but not really.
But you were like, you crossed your fingers. Please don't.
I wasn't exactly, oh my God, I'm so upset right now that Sidney Crosby got hurt because I know what he still can do at his age. So
no, I understand that. What I hate is when I saw Rangers fans legitimately cheering that he got injured. I think that's shitty.
Look, that's one of those things where, look, in your mind you can say this is advantageous for my team, and it's okay.
No, absolutely agree with that. But so do I think they'll keep him? It's so tough because Ron Hextall, I have no idea what he's going to do. I don't see him leaving. What would I take for him? I mean, oh my God.
And this is a great question, right? Because to me, again, if you're going to pull the Band-Aid off, you pull the Band-Aid off and you go hard youth. You don't get anybody over the age of 23. Like you just.
Yeah, no. Peter, you're talking top prospects, maybe a first round. I mean, he still has 3 years left, $8.7 million. For how good he still is, that's a steal. Like, this isn't something, and you mentioned Kane and Taves, Brian. This isn't something with Taves where he's making like $10.5 million. He's a legend, but he's massively overpaid. No, Crosby was our best player in this series, other than maybe Jake Gensel. Like, he was absolute superstar.
Dude,
he's so good, isn't he? But
next time you talk to our boy Mike Velarde, ask him why he traded him in fantasy hockey. He still won the league, but he did.
But well, he's a Flyers fan, so he's not great
That's
at
exactly what
talent,
it was. Why'd you draft him then if you didn't?
But I don't even remember what I was saying. But yeah, no, you could get a haul back for Crosby. So if they want to absolutely rebuild, I would say trade him. Do I think they will? Which is what you asked. I have no clue. I could see it. I could also see him retiring here. But I'm never going to say, like I saw one of those comments said, I could never see him playing for another team like Ovi, well, I never thought I'd see Tom Brady play for a team other than Patriots. And you know what? That happens. So never say never. All I'll say is if they trade him, please get something good back. Please get some great prospects at first, whatever, if you want to go hardcore rebuild. But that's where you can tell they're hardcore rebuilding if they trade Sidney Crosby. If they kept him, you can maybe say, okay, they're kind of in between. John, new ownership in Pittsburgh. Who knows where they may stand on these UFAs? Well, that's another thing I want to mention. The Fenway Sports Group, John Henry and those guys, obviously, owning the Boston Red Sox, also own Liverpool over in the Premier League over in England. When I saw this, sale was announced, a lot of people were, mocking the Penguins. Oh, they're going to relocate, blah, blah, blah. I actually like the sale, and don't get me wrong, Mario Lemieux and the group he has, they did basically all they could, but I don't mind them getting sold, to FSG because we've seen, with Red Sox 4 World Series or something under their ownerships, 3 or 4, I'd say. I don't remember exact year that they took over, but, and obviously Liverpool, they're a great team. So I don't mind if they play some part in, us turning around our franchise for the long-term foreseeable future. I don't mind getting sold. So, that's a good point as well by John. Where does the ownership stand? We'll see. If they want to bring back Malkin, it depends on the price, okay, but Letang, I'm sorry, love the guy. I would not bring him back. This defense has needed a massive overhaul for years. Gensel, just build around him. If you want to trade Crosby, oh, God, that's going to be a day I'll cry. That'd be like in the Falcons traded Julio Jones. It's like, I get it. I love it logically, but emotionally, oh, man. But we'll see what happens, I guess.
Here's a $64,000 question. So, Ranger fans were getting lit up by Paul Bissonnette, for example, for complaining that the calls in the series were all going in one direction, that direction not being for the Rangers. Now, did this seem to you like Pittsburgh was getting the preferential treatment from the officials, or is that a figment of our imagination?
I wouldn't say it's a figment of your imagination. I wouldn't say it was rigged necessarily. I would say
no, I'm not saying that.
No,
what I would say is that from if a goal review is a 50-50 proposition, a coin flip, if you will,
you stick with the call.
To hit 5 in a row is about a 3% probability.
I would say I just think it was incompetence. I don't think there was any preferential treatment. Obviously, I think some calls went our way. Like I said, I think we got bailed out in game 1. Game 7, the first goal, the review, it was clearly over the line. So the second one,
I have no issue with that crossbar.
The second one, I know that's the one people are talking about. I've watched the replay tons of times. You have to remember, it's not where the stick is, it's where he contacts the puck. To me, I think it's about 2 or 3 millimeters over the bar, which by the rule is probably a high stick. But I got a few controversial opinions here. Number one, that's not conclusive evidence. They said goal on the ice, right? Yeah. And if it's a 50-50 call, you have to. It's like in football, right? We see something that should probably be overturned, right? But they don't have that clear, definitive view. And look, if people want to say it was over the bar, that's their decision. To me, I looked at it. I think, yeah, it's probably barely over the bar. But is there anything truly conclusive for them to turn it over? I didn't see that. Now, if people want to call me an idiot, they want to call me biased, that's their right. I tell it how it is. You guys both know that. So I didn't have a major issue with that. But my thing is, I don't even think high sticking that goal, that should not even be a rule. I think it's a dumb rule. If you can put your stick on it and put it in the net, I think it's fair game. I understand you don't want some guy jacking his stick up and, busting some guy's face open. And I don't mean to sound like a dick, but I'm sorry. Hockey is not the sport to play if you're worried about injury. Like, this stuff happens all the time. I don't think it should be a rule.
To me, right? To me, and I always go back to the game 1 goal because no one's going to convince me that was the right call.
Right.
Okay. No one's going to convince me.
I told Hank this a week ago. I said, I think they messed up the call.
Again, we're not even talking about this great game 7 if that goes in, because the Rangers probably win in 6 games, and everything changes after that. But what gets me the most, right, is that took them 27 and a half seconds to say, no, there's no goal here. No, this is interference. No goal.
Are you talking game 1?
Yes, that was a very quick review. And then at every single time It was a close thing for Pittsburgh. They were pretty much, granularly zooming in with the force to try to find where the puck may possibly have crossed the line. Like it was like they were like doing everything that, and I'm in group text with, I said, listen, there is no way this gets overturned, or there is no way this is not a goal. They will find a reason to call this a goal.
Brian, you just made me think of another play I'd honestly completely forgotten about. There was one, I don't remember what game it was. I know it was one of the games we won, I believe. But it was a shot. I don't even remember who it was by. But you cannot see the puck at all. Shesterkin has his glove over it. Now, in my opinion, obviously you can't see shit. In my opinion, based on where his glove was, it was probably over the line. But you can't see anything. Right. So how the hell do you call that? There was a ton of weird plays in this series. And I saw a comment here. He's too used to it. The league has gone Pittsburgh's way since Crosby was drafted.
He has a point.
I mean, it is what it is, but that said, respect the greatness, baby. Sidney Crosby, one of the best players of the 21st century, 5 Stanley Cups since 1991. I'm going to be upset about this Game 7 for about 2 days, and then I'm going to be like, hey, I got to see my team win 2 Stanley Cups. I wasn't, around for 09, but, I've seen it on playback. I got to see 2 Stanley Cups live, a World Series, and a college football national championship, 4 titles in the last, 6 years. Like, yeah, it sucks that we lost the series, but if I go, oh, boo-hoo, the Penguins, they screwed me over. Man, the Penguins, we have been blessed with so much talent over the past 30 years. We are the last guys to be bitching about losing a playoff series. Yeah, it sucks, whatnot, congrats to Rangers and all that. It's going to hurt for a little bit, obviously. But it is what it is. Like I said, if they really wanted to win the series, they need to hold on game 5 or 6, and the Rangers won those games more clearly. So, it is what it is. And Peter's saying helmet is a stupid rule as well. A goal winning off it. It is what it is. That's the rule. If they want to change it, that's their right.
For the conspiracy theorist in us all. Okay. Like, it just feels like there wasn't. Was there a game where Pittsburgh didn't get a goal that was in some way or something happened that was in some way not controversial, a review or something? Like they couldn't just have Sidney Crosby just blast one over Igor's shoulder. Like it had to did it go in over the net? Who got put? Like it just seemed like it was an endless streak of weird shit. Like I don't know how else to say it. Like,
yeah. No, I understand that. I absolutely do. And if it was on the other side, I'd probably be saying, what the hell's going on? I definitely see where you guys are coming from. I think there were some things I saw in this series that were either they were so absolutely bizarre, like how the hell did this happen? Or, it's something with the refs. So I'm not dismissing it at all. I definitely understand where you guys are coming from. But it doesn't matter. We lost the series anyway.
No, I mean, we can complain about it now. It doesn't even matter because obviously Hank, you went to a bunch of games in this series. Ranger fans got to the point where we actually were Bronx cheering icing calls because of what happened earlier in the year where they wouldn't call an icing. Like it's just like it became this like ongoing like you feel. It
was kind of funny. I'm not gonna lie when they started.
I thought it was hysterical, but I get to the point where like you idiots, they're not gonna call something if you keep pissing them off. Like stop.
I was kind of starting to get annoyed by that after a while.
Really, like again, from the opposition fan standpoint, like you are always expecting something to go in Pittsburgh's favor, and I don't know why.
That's true.
Not as if this is a big market for the NHL where they're going to make all this money because the Pittsburgh Penguins are advancing. You know what I mean? Like you would think if you were going to try to do that, it would be for New York, LA, and Chicago and Boston, like not for
Toronto.
Yeah, right. You know what I mean? Like
no,
or Montreal.
Not a minor market, so to speak.
Right. No, I definitely agree. That's where when I see the conspiracy theories, they favor the Penguins, they favor Crosby. Had they had things go their way, absolutely. Everything goes, for you or against you at some point. Just ask the freaking Buffalo Sabres. Brett Hull, baby. Absolute
98,
legend.
98.
But, yep. So, the only thing I would say.
98 was the Red Wings sweeping the Capitals.
99.
99, yeah. The only thing I would say about
that
Rangers
was my freshman year of high school.
Long time ago.
A long time
that
ago.
was the year I was born. That tells you how long ago that was.
Yeah.
But the only thing I would say about Rangers fans and the refs, I don't, if they want to complain about the refs, that's their right. The only thing I found funny was when like Crystal Tang got high sick needs bleeding and fans were booing the call. I'm like, okay, there's booing and controversial call, and then there's booing something obvious. I didn't really get that, but we lost the series anyway. If we had won and people could play, oh man, the rest game of the series, no, that's one thing, but we couldn't even do that. That's how bad we were, in the last final 3 games of the series. And look, Peter is spot on right here. Whichever way you cut it, Pittsburgh lost because they couldn't hold on the leads. Spot on. Game 3, they tried to blow it. They didn't because, they got bailed out in the third period. Game 5 and 6, they blew it. Game 7, they blew it. That's not going to happen against Carolina. Like I said, is a completely different animal to what we are. But they couldn't hold on the leads. If they hold on the leads, this game's over in 5, maybe 6.
Are you unaware of this button that they have in Toronto?
I am not, but look, hey, it's Toronto, man. There's nothing up normal in Toronto. Have you seen how many crazy Maple Leafs fans there are up there? We don't go to Toronto for normal people.
That's just, I called that series. I don't even feel bad about it. I don't even feel bad about it. Like, I just knew that was going to end that way. Any predictions on Rangers Hurricanes? I'll give you the floor.
If Igor and the defense play like they did in game 1, game 1, oh my God, man. You can tell I'm off my game today. If they play like they did in that series, they're done in 5. Like, you cannot defend against that with the players the Hurricanes have. But that said, like I said, I love Igor. I think he's a great player. If he can play like I know he can and the defense stops giving up these terrible opportunities, I think they have a chance to take it to maybe 7 games. That said, do I think they're magically, it's just going to instantly flip a switch 2 days later, they're instantly defending great, they're stopping everything. That doesn't really happen. Like, you don't usually just flip a switch. Obviously, it does sometimes. Like, if you told a 2012 Kings fan when they were number 8 seed, you're going to win the Stanley Cup, they look at you like, what the fuck are you talking about? Get out of here. But I don't think it's just going to instantly change. I think the Hurricanes have too much talent. They got the good old burner account man himself. He's been absolutely fired up this series. The burner account's been going off with Anthony D'Angelo.
He's going to have something for him. I know that.
Jacob Slavin as well had 8 points in this playoff series, plus 10. Guys like Trocheck, Carolina, if they start chipping in with Aho and Domi, that's deadly. The only thing I would really question about Hurricanes, which is what I said for the Boston series, what the hell is their goaltending? Is it going to be Ranta or is it going to be Anderson? Because if Anderson plays, I know he's had his playoff, struggles in the past, but I think that helps him. If it's Ranta, I'm not saying he's a bad goalie. He was okay against Boston, but he's been a backup most of his career for a reason. So if Igor plays like he does, that's a big advantage for the Rangers goalie-wise. Defensively, if they can play like they did the second half of the regular season, big advantage. But if they play like they did against the Rangers, I'm not even saying this, salty, sour grapes. If they play like that, like they did against the Penguins, they'll lose in 5 or 6. So I'm going to go Canes in 6, and that's nothing against the Rangers. You remember this, Brian? I had the Hurricanes in the Stanley Cup Finals. I think their roster is stacked. So I think the Canes will win the series. However, I will say if Igor and that defense starts getting going, they might surprise some people. And one last note before, sorry, Brian, to cut you off. This playoff system is an absolute joke. How is this a second round matchup? This is something most years you could see as a conference finals. They changed the format that did not need changing. So yeah, thanks a lot, Gary Bettman, and you guys. I don't know if you want to press that lockout button anytime soon, since you guys love doing that. Maybe you could change it if you did.
I actually think, like, if they did like the reseed, I think this is actually the same way that I'm going to look at the standings, but I really think it actually would have ended up this way anyway. I'm trying to find where is there no standings on NHL's website? Jeez, make it harder, right? ESPN. There we go. Okay, so in the conference, it would have ended up this way anyway because Florida was 1, Carolina was 2, Rangers were 4, Tampa was 5. So it's the 2-4 and the 1-5, if you will. Although in the first round, it would have been Florida, Washington, which it was, Carolina, Pittsburgh, Toronto, Boston, Rangers, Tampa. So it would have been a little different there. But by records, at least, this is correct. John says Carolina's prep was a no-show against Boston. They still won, which is scary. Yeah, look, Carolina's very good. This is not the matchup I wanted. And, as I said, are you playing with quote unquote house money at this point because you've seen death 3 times and it's like you found a way? Or does that reinvigorate you? Like, basically, I cheated death. Now I can actually, I can go. Like, maybe they won't play with as much fear.
Right.
I don't know really how they react again for a young-ish team. I don't really know how they're going to react.
That's true, but once again, I have to say it: the Hurricanes are not the Penguins. Completely different beast.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. If you guys win, I'm not going to wish you guys luck or anything because obviously I'm still a little bit of a salty bitch. But I think it could potentially be a good series. So, luckily, the only thing I'll say, I don't have to worry about every other day, shitting my pants, basically. I can actually, watch the playoffs pretty much as a neutral now.
What a crazy series that this was a nut. This we won't forget this one. I mean, this was crazy.
Hey, as a neutral, this was easily the best series. Like, it's not even close. As a fan, fuck that series on both sides. I say that for Rangers fans too. You would say the exact same thing, even though you won. You said, "Man, fuck what that series did to me." Everything out of you.
Again, I said coming into Game 6, I said whoever wins Game 6 wins the series. Now, having said that, Pittsburgh would have actually won the series if they won Game 6. But I felt that if they got it back to New York, they would find a way to do it. And I just thought that. I would have guessed Game 6 would have ended with basically an infield fly over his head. I never would have guessed that. Never in my mind.
Oh, Louis. Appreciate you, Louis. I know you're a great guy. The fans love you, but I don't know what the hell you were doing there. Went into La La Land.
Louis.
Well, listen, Noah, thank you for hopefully we weren't too harsh.
No, it was fine.
Okay. Rangers kick off game 1 on I think it's Wednesday night. I think it's Wednesday, Friday in Carolina, and Sunday afternoon in New York is game 3 at 3:30, which is kind of interesting. As we wrap up here, personal note, I just want to share with everybody, guys, I got my CFP results. I passed my CFP. So thank you for everybody who had reached out with their nice thoughts and everything. I stood through the deadline. I was waiting for results. I got those results. I passed. I have never taken a test in my life. I'm done. So I finally have what is in my field, the gold standard letters. I'm done. No more tests.
Congratulations, man.
Thank you very much. 1 star. Do not recommend, by the way. I don't think.
Congrats, man.
Yeah, you should not take this. It's not fun. It's not fun. Please don't do it. We will try to probably do a post game during the series. We'll see how things go. Possibly, that Sunday night maybe because we'll have some time after the game to do so. I will obviously post ahead of that, to let everybody know. But listen, like I said at the start of the show in my little monologue there, I will never forget that game last night. I know Noah never will either for the wrong reasons, but at the same time,
yeah.
Being there the way that it was, again, never should have happened because they should have just, won game 1. But again, everything happens for a reason. A wonderful experience for these kids. This is not the end of whatever happens to Carolina is not going to be the end of the road for this team. So you have that to fall back on.
Mm-hmm.
Let's let the chips fall. I agree with if they can sneak one of the first 2, put some doubt in Carolina's mind, then you can see where that goes. I think if they lose the first 2, again, in my mind, if you say, Carolina's up 2-0, Rangers win game 3 at home and then lose game 4, it could easily end in 5. It wouldn't shock me at all. Carolina's that good. I'm not a big Freddie Anderson guy, though. The goaltending advantage is clear for the Rangers in this one, the same as it was.
Sorry, could you say that?
No, Siri, I can't. The goaltending was the same. Usually it's dead by now anyway. So it's a huge advantage for the Rangers in goal. I not that he's been bad, but I think that they win on team defense. So I think that the hardest part's going to be, again, I went over some of the stats earlier in the show. The PK for Carolina was number 1 in the league this year. So if the Rangers can get something going on the power play, okay. But again, I look back at some of these games where the Rangers they were playing a whole different league than Carolina. And I'm like, if you see, if it starts that way, like I thought in the bubble, the Rangers could beat them. They were outclassed.
Mm-hmm.
If this kicks off game 1 and we're like 3-0 end of the first period because Carolina's just overwhelming them, this could easily be a short series. And you know
That's
what?
True.
It's not that I'm like okay with it,
Mm-hmm.
but like I kind of like you have to separate your heart from your head. Like I said, you can cheerlead if you want to. You can say, "Hey, I love this," and that's great. Root for your team. Never don't root for your team, but you should be able to separate reality from what you want to happen and your desired outcome. I thought the Rangers were going to be Pittsburgh. I thought they would do it in 6 games, and they probably should have. Not because I thought that Pittsburgh was not a good team. I thought the Rangers were this much better, and they did play them well in the regular season. Not that carries over. This is not a good matchup. If Boston had won, I feel great.
Man, yeah. No, both fan bases were absolutely rooting for Boston to win that series, and unfortunately, couldn't quite get it done.
Yep.
But I will say this: this Rangers team is way better than that bubble team, obviously. So maybe they can do something.
Well, look, I think that worse Ranger teams have gotten further along.
I mean, those teams that team that went to the 2014 finals, guys like Dan Girardi on defense, Ryan McDonough. Oh my God.
But that was Hank and friends.
Yeah,
that's what those teams were, and it's like now there are legitimate star offensive talent. They didn't have that. I mean, Rick Nash was a shell of himself. Matt Zuccarello had to get hit in the head in the first round of 15. Did not return.
Marty St. Louis, he led that comeback against the Penguins. Didn't do jack else. Thanks, Marty. Appreciate you, buddy.
He did have that. He had that one goal against Montreal.
Okay,
fair enough. Game 4.
Yeah, that would have been, I want to say, May 25th, 2014. Yeah.
Oh my God. You guys remember it? I remember that.
Yeah, no, you've seen me with my dates.
I've seen the Penguins blow a 3-1 series against the Rangers before, so it is what it is. But yeah, Hank is like a sports encyclopedia. I'll post something on my page, and he's like, "Do you remember back in 1962 when Jim Bob and Henry Aaron did something together?" And I'm like, "Oh my God, I don't even know what you're talking about." But like, hey, that's cool as hell, man. So,
wow. All right. Again, keep your eye out on the BlueTruth page. If you're watching the YouTube replay, appreciate that. Make sure you're following on Facebook and Twitter. We will be posting. If we're going to do a post game, we'll try to do that. Maybe Sunday night. We'll see how it goes. I'll see how my life's going, because after taking time to study for the CFP, my wife wanted to probably put my head on a platter because she was a single mom there for a while. So I have to spend some time doing that. And now the Rangers are on a cup run, right? We're going to win the Stanley Cup run. So on behalf of Jim from Blueshirt Underground, make sure you follow that. Hank, tell them where they can find a review and preview. Tell them who you are and why.
So you can find me pretty much every Thursdays, provided I don't skip out and go to a Ranger game at 7 p.m. doing Hitting for the Cycle. I pretty much cover everything baseball related. Yankees, obviously, but and of course the Mets, but pretty much any big news that happens. You can also find me during football season co-hosting Big Blue Avenue with Tom Scavetta and Sam Cardona. And of course, I have also recently joined a new podcast called Game On. I co-host that with Johnny Montalbano, who Brian and I have had the pleasure of talking to about a few days before the series. Yeah, no, great people. And of course, you can find that going on every Tuesday at 3 p.m. on the Empty the Bench Sports Network.
And then Noah's part of the Sports Box family. Now, Noah, you're on like 4 shows now that I didn't even know you were on. So how does that work now? What are you on now?
So my original show, and the one I'm probably most well known for, the Sweet Tea Show, Friday nights in the Sports Box with my good buddy and co-host Garth Michael Patrick, 9 p.m. Eastern Friday nights. So, we do a bit of everything, mainly college football, NFL, and whatnot. But since that's basically dead right now, we're doing the NHL playoffs, and now we can do the Penguinist NHL playoffs. So we'll continue covering that as it goes along. My other show as well, Sunday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, Diamond Cutters, which is our baseball show with Ryan V. Hill. We've taken a few weeks off. I did not do it last night because I was watching a certain Game 7. That was totally worth it, so thanks, guys. But yeah, those are 2 shows I do. I'm guest on stuff like all the time. So.
Yeah, I really think like you invented the internet at one point. Like I really think that like nothing happens without your face on the.
You know what the funny thing is, Ryan V. Hill, he told me, he was like, you and Brian are the only 2 people on the entire Sports Box network that actually know how to set up a show by yourselves. And I'm like, are you serious? Really? But no, thanks for having me on, guys. It was a lot of fun. Congratulations to you guys once again.
My voice is like 80%. It was worse after Game 2, ironically enough. But what a moment! I mean, I don't want to understate it, but like the way it played out, there was a reason it played out that way. And this comeback, I mean, it puts you through everything. It drains you. Like they have to like break you down before they can build you back up again. And that's hockey. And there's nothing like it. I tell people this is the greatest game in the world. There is nothing like this. And
highest of the highs, lowest of the lows. I saw the Penguins play a Game 7 overtime in the conference finals against Ottawa, which they won, go on to win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
You know, highest of the high, and then this lowest of the lows. It happened. Swept by the Islanders of all friggin' teams as well. Lowest of the lows.
I was a huge Penguins fan during that series. And it was very sad.
Yeah. Well,
I talked so much shit too. It was like, oh my god, the Islanders gonna get there. They suck. They're this, and then
then they won.
But
like you said, oh, they're dead. They're done. They're fired gone. Barry Trotz. Their team sucks. They're done. They hired some guy I've never even heard of off the streets today.
You know what's funny about that? We need a new voice in the locker room. That new voice is the guy who was sitting next to the old voice who we fired. Sure.
Well, yeah, no, lowest of the lows, 4 terrible playoff failures, but highest of the highs, 5 cups since 1991. I don't have anything to complain about, guys. So you take what you can get, man.
This is what we play the game for, right?
Mm-hmm. So, Gonna be watching good old Mario highlights and Sidney Crosby highlights to make myself feel better.
All right, guys. Thank you for watching BlueTruth. We appreciate that. Let's go Rangers.